السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم ألهمنا مراشد أمورنا وأعذنا من شرور أنفسنا. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has mentioned in the Quran Kareem, سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ, that our ayat, our signs, our messages, the understanding of what we have said to people and to make man understand. He said, we will continue showing them the signs of this in the world around us, until the time comes that they will see it within themselves also. And it will become so clear that everything has been said is the truth. So one example I am going to give of this is the eye. And to understand what was meant, where Allah Tabarak Ta'ala mentioned that they have eyes but they cannot see. As we drive in the world of today, every person understands that what's behind that bend nobody knows. But if we had someone who could just explain to us what's happening after the bend, what happens 1 hour beyond the journey that I leave, then everyone in the world runs for that technology. Because with that technology you get saved from, example, a camera. Can I drive fast at this point? Now the camera can be picked up. There was a time that there was no way you could know a police officer is sitting around the bend. But now you have your phone. In your phone, either you have a message from someone who's gone ahead. That message is a big thing. So every time before I leave for my journey, I check my WhatsApp. How's the traffic? Are there any riots on the road? Is it safe to go out? Then I will see camera alert. Are they trapping here? Just because man got a little news of what's ahead, it suddenly makes the journey all the more enjoyable. Now before going out, the only thing he has to do is check. Make a phone call. Because man has understood you can never trust the eye. The police officer with the eye is picked up only when it's too late. Now the only thing that the eye will show you is what he caught you on speeding. So the eye could never be trusted. Similarly in this world, when man will die, the eye will see a lot. It will see it in the grave, it will see it in the year after. But at that time, just like how that police officer can show you on his camera, sir, we caught you traveling so fast. But at that time, seeing it will not change anything. Similarly, when man will see a lot of realities in the grave, the eye is going to see it all. But Mubarak to that person who before the eye saw it, he saw it. Before the eye saw it. This is known as the deception of the eye. That me and you both know that the eye picks up something when it's too late. It has seen a beautiful girl, that's what the eye saw. But the eye could not see the amount of collapse that will take place after that. The eye could not see that after that relationship, man will get caught somewhere along the line. One message will come out, then there will be fights, there will be arguments. Then one child will be this way, one will be that way. It could lead to murder, it could lead to chaos, it could lead to the entire business collapse, but the eye couldn't see it. At the end of the game, the man will say, if only I knew. So if only I knew, that sentence of his means that knowledge got something to do with besides the eye. Because the eye saw it all, but the eye saw nothing. This is the deception of the eye. The eye saw wonderful palaces around, wonderful buildings. But the eye could never see what's happening in the building. So an outside house which was painted well meant that the inside house is also painted well. The outside garage and the outside gate, and as the gate was opening and someone was opening doors meant everything is well. How many houses I have visited, how they hosted us, how they looked after us. When you leave, you will feel in this family there is only paradise. But later on when you get the message, you will find out if Jahannam is there, it's there. That the only reason they're giving the dawah is perhaps some mercy can come into that house. Some way the problem can go. The eye, what it saw on the outside, what a world it was on the inside. The eye saw a man, he was so happy. He was sitting at a table. He was a millionaire, he was a billionaire. But the eye could not see that when that man goes to sleep. One singer accepted Islam when she went into what is called in their country niqab. In our country we call niqab means the face is covered. In many of their countries when they speak about she went into burqa in niqab, it means she put on a scarf. For those people that's too big also. How can you wear a scarf? So they interviewed her. And they said that you are that woman who, there used to be crowds and crowds of people around you, supporters. And as you would sing, the whole stadium like was moving with you. And now that you reverted, we will say. And then the woman asked her, and now that you put on this, but she meant a scarf, whereas what is a scarf? She said, thousands of your supporters now, you just left. So she asked her, don't you feel lonely anymore? That there was a time where every move of your dance and everybody else was dancing with it. You were followed on every chat and every group. You had thousands of followers. But when she reverted, for a woman who reverts, it's not easy like a man. A man can still continue. If he's a sports person, with accepting Islam, he can still continue on his sports. But a woman is a singer and she reverts. She understood she will have to let the whole career collapse. So they asked her, don't you feel lonely now? So what an answer she gave. She says, after every program when I used to go home, and I used to lie on that bed which was booked out in that hotel, whichever place she was singing. She said, for 2 to 3 hours I would stay on that bed and cry. She said, why I cried, I also never knew. There was an inner loneliness. She also had a lot of boyfriends. But the eye just shows a lovely picture of Hollywood. He went, he took her hand, she took his hand, they went to the club, they went to the movies, they bought some popcorn, they lived happily ever after. It doesn't work like that. No person lives happily ever after. That happiness comes from Allah. You can have the world at your feet, you can have the boys of the world running behind you. She was a singer who could have made a sign to any young boy, come with me tonight. And maybe she spent many nights with many people. But the eye could only see, wow, she got a life. She said, 2 to 3 hours every night I cried. 2 to 3 hours. She said, then the day came when I was getting ready to sing. And my assistant who helps to dress me up, I went into the room to get something, which normally I would not go, but I had forgotten something. As I entered, I saw her in this very funny posture. Her assistant was a Muslim. She was not the most pious of Muslims. She was an assistant of a dancer. She said, I saw her in that posture. In that world, what we call Hollywood, Bollywood, America, Canada, those people are so lost that they're ready to try anything. Anything and everything. We will still say, hold on, don't just take a chance. Anything that comes on the market, they'll order it. She saw her in that posture, she waited. She asked, what's this you're doing? She said, I'm praying to my Lord. And she really felt shy that I'll get fired now. First time she caught her performing salah. She said, can't I do it? Perhaps that assistant was so scared, she told her, you can also do it. Oh Lord, you just want to go do it. She said she made the sajda without wuzu, without an Allahu Akbar, without understanding what this thing is. She says, but as soon as her head hit the ground, she felt as a burden was lifted from her body. But the eye could never see it. She said, 2 to 3 hours I cried every night, but the world never saw it. The day she left, the entire world saw her as a lonely woman. But the eye could never see that she's not lonely anymore. Now she puts her head on the bed and she's fast asleep. So the eye and the deception of the eye has perhaps grabbed all of us. From the time I entered school, my eye, whatever it saw, it said to my mind, this is it. Despite the fact that every few days I was taught your eye lied. When I was small, I saw my mother bringing the milk from the fridge. My eye said it comes from the fridge. Myself, I later on learned it was a lie. The milk doesn't come from the fridge. Then I saw my father bringing it from the shop. My eye said it's from there. Myself, I realized that it was a lie. It wasn't from the shop. The only thing that later informed me of the lie of the eye was called knowledge. It was knowledge that took me to the shop. It was knowledge that took me to the dairy. It was knowledge that took me to the cow. Right till the cow my knowledge reached. And finally my knowledge said to the eye, you lied. It comes from the cow. And that's where me and you ended today. Our knowledge also said to the eye, it doesn't come from the sky directly, it comes from the clouds, the rain. It said, I know how the water goes up, I know how it comes down. My eye said to me, it's just the knowledge said it's not that, but there's one problem. That knowledge which I took also was surface knowledge. And at the point where my knowledge, your knowledge, and the knowledge of every scientist in the world came to an end, a new knowledge started which was called the knowledge of the unseen. It was called Wahi. It was called this Quran. As this Quran was going to tell us that the cow doesn't give the milk, but the milk comes from the creator of the cow, which me and you all understand. None of us deny that. An atheist perhaps denies, but not me and you. There we understood that this Quran has spoken the truth. The milk comes from Allah. There we were not deceived. When I ask you where rain comes from the clouds, you and me both will say, the small child will say, I went to madrasa. My Quran taught me knowledge. The water doesn't come from the cloud. It comes from beyond the creator of the cloud. That part of deception also left us. But now I want to show where we still left deceived. When I went looking for happiness, I understood that happiness comes from the girl. No matter how many times I could have been told that happiness comes from the creator of the girl, that doubt still remained with me. That no, it comes from the girl. It comes from. That is why when I got married, I was so thrilled, I was so happy. I never bothered to lift up my hands and say, oh Allah, happiness comes from you. But when the problem started in the marriage, and then the fight started, then everyone ran to the alim. He said, can you give me one dua to read? A lot of problems. Why? Suddenly my knowledge taught me that Allah Tabarak Ta'ala announced, it is Allah who makes people smile. It is Allah who makes people cry. This is a deception of the eye, that wherever the eye said it's this, or my knowledge said it's this. So what is this bayan about? This bayan is about, let's take a trip through Quran. And as we understood the milk comes from Allah, and as we understood that water comes from Allah, there's a few other steps we also have to understand. And perhaps if we reach that realization before the eye has to see you were caught speeding, you will reach your destination, I will reach it very easy. Once I set out on my destination, the first thing I will do is check up what's beyond the corner. So I'll have to ask Quran. There will be times when this Quran will speak to the mind. And it will say to the minds which the eye cannot see, but the mind will say yes. And there are times when Quran is going to speak to my heart. When it speaks to my heart, even my mind will question and say, what are you doing? And that is a unique test for man. When a time will come where his heart and his mind will be at a contest. Finally, the heart will say, I trust Allah, I'm doing it. And the mind will say, are you mad? Abu Bakr radiallahu anh becomes the Khalifa of Islam. The army of Usama radiallahu anh has been prepared. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to them, go out into the lands of the Romans. Senior Sahaba radiallahu anh come and say to Abu Bakr radiallahu anh that although Allah's Nabi prepared this army, but the army was supposed to go out in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not after his death. Now that he has passed away, there is turmoil in Medina itself. The people around Medina Munawwara who pledged allegiance have broken. People who were giving zakat refused. Neighboring tribes are coming in, looking in the masjid. He said, we can see in their eyes, they are looking to see who's left in Medina. That this is the opportune time to make an attack. And whatever is Islam to be wiped out forever and ever. There is no Nabi of Allah. The news is spreading, it has reached Rome. 1 year previously, the Muslims went out for the battle of Tabuk. The Roman emperor asked, is the Nabi alive? They said, yes. He pulled the whole army back. It was known as the battle against the Romans, first battle, the battle of Usra, the battle of difficulty. The Muslim army went very far into the lands of Sham to face the Romans, but the Romans never pitched up. Because the king asked, is the Nabi alive? They said, yes. He said, pull the army back. The news now spread immediately that the Nabi has passed away. The best time to make the attack from the Roman side is attack. The Persians will attack. Neighboring tribes will attack. At that time, the mind, which was also blessed with Quran, looked at the masala. It was completely permissible to hold back this army. It was completely permissible to say, this army will go out in the path of Allah next year. What was so unique about this army? This army was an army made to go and fight the Romans. So it included the best of the warriors of the Muslim world. Without this army, Medina Munawwara has no army. So even the mind of unique Sahaba radiallahu anh said, do not let the army go out. But Abu Bakr radiallahu anh at that time taught the Muslim Ummah what it means when man says, listen to the heart. One thought Allah Tabarak Ta'ala put in his heart. One thought. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anh said that because Allah's Nabi tied this flag, do you want Abu Bakr to untie the flag? He said, I can't do that. They said, but if this army goes out, that but, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh was not ready to listen to a but. So then they used the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as that who will look after the wives of the Rasul of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh at that time was over 60 years old. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh said, I, Abu Bakr, if you are not ready to go out, I will go out. I alone will go out. He said, but I will not untie a flag. They had to hold him back. It was an example for the Muslim world that any Muslim who will trust his heart, Allah Tabarak Ta'ala will open up the doors of conquest for him. Although beyond that hill nobody can see it. But this is called Iman and my trust on my Allah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, Allah Tabarak Ta'ala announced, Ana inda zanni abdi bi. I will deal with my slave as he thinks of me. I will deal with my slave as he thinks of me. Many a time when man sees problems in his life, what is the only reason depression comes in? Depression comes because he thinks my Allah has given up on me, forsaken me. That thought put him in depression. And that thought created the problem. That man who's convinced my Allah will never leave me, that man will never fall in a depression. He'll remain smiling. Even if in the world he got not one single cent in his pocket. It got to do with the thought. And the thought changes the whole life. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh sent out the army. He said to the army of Usama radiallahu anh as they were going out, that when you go out, don't hurry to come back. He said, we have to hurry. Who will look after Medina? Don't hurry to come back. You will go. You will stop at the places Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted you to stop. When your work is finished, then you will come back. It took the army 40 days. 40 days to return. During these 40 days, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh himself, other Sahaba radiallahu anh, he would say, you go in this direction, you go in that direction. So when the enemy come to see Medina Munawwara, they must find a group of warriors. You will be in that direction, you will be in that direction. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh created an environment in Medina Munawwara that as the army of Usama left, the news spread in the entire world of those who were thinking of launching the attack, that the Muslim army has reached such a power that the Nabi has just passed away and one army is already being sent out to fight the Romans. If an army can fight the Romans, what is the army of Medina itself? The Romans dropped. They said, an army is coming to us. The Persians forgot their story. Neighboring Arabs, as the news started coming that the Muslims defeated Roman army number 1, they have gone through Roman army number 2. As they started hearing that, they said, if they can knock the Romans so easily, where we are going to enter it? Village upon village forgot their story. Zakat started coming back into the world. Muslims started coming. No zakat. One group said, we will not pay zakat. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh said, I'll make jihad against them. The same group came back and said to him, at the moment, we are fighting now the Romans. We are preparing for the Persians. We are worried about the attacks from neighboring. This is not the time to say to that group who doesn't want to pay zakat, I'll make war on you also. How many are you going to fight? But when this heart talks, a woman says, I'm going into niqab. How many a time we have heard this example? We have seen it practically. People have written to us. He fell in love with the girl. She was her white, or his white neighbor, whatever her name was. And our people like something which is different. So he liked her color, he liked her name, he liked her everything, he married her. His mother said to him that she's a non-Muslim girl. He said, I'll make her Muslim. And he made her Muslim. But when she accepted Islam, she asked him that now that I'm a Muslim, I want to read Quran. He himself had no Quran. As she started reading, as she started looking on the sites, as she started learning her deen, she understood my Allah doesn't want me to show my face to the world. He married her when her whole body was shown to the world. Suddenly he comes home and she says, I want to go into burqa. So he says, no, Islam is not so hard. He says it. So how many a time that girl said to him, you brought me into Islam, and now you want me to stop here? Now he comes running, that please tell her she doesn't have to cover her face. But that woman is not ready to listen at all. When she is told, if you cover your face now, then how are we going to mix with my family? You got no family of yours, they're all non-Muslims. And my family, when we go out to eat and you covered, at that moment, that word, what she says to her, that you are going to be left all alone. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh at that time was told that this one part, just leave this part out. That group who doesn't want to pay the zakat, just leave that for a while. Because how many people we're going to fight with? But there is something called when the heart talks. When the heart talks, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh said, I'll make war on them also. He said, not a single weakness will come in my Islam as long as Abu Bakr is alive. And today the Islam we see is Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu's lesson to the world, that trust your heart and your Allah will never let you down. Trust your heart. 40 days when the army of Usama radiallahu anh entered back in Medina Munawwara, everyone was celebrating. Everyone was happy. Everyone was shocked. They had done their works in the Roman world. Medina Munawwara was safe. The noise that Islam is strong was spreading everywhere. Sahabi radiallahu anh comes to Abu Bakr radiallahu anh and says that these 40 days I cannot understand how you stood straight. For 40 days the thought every night must have been running in your mind, what if the enemy attack tomorrow? There is no one to protect Medina Munawwara from an outside attack. 40 days. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh said that I spent 3 days with Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a cave at the time that we were all alone. Makkah Mukarramah did not want us. Medina Munawwara had called us, but the law of Hijrat had come that you will go alone. The law of going alone was to say to the whole world. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala in the Quran said, that remember, لَقَدْ نَصَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ, that Allah's help has always been with you. And then Allah Tabarak Ta'ala in Quran explained, especially the time when they took him out of the city. ثَانِيَ اثْنَيْنِ, it was only 2 of them. إِذْ هُمَا فِي الْغَارِ, they were in a cave. The enemy tracked them. Unique trackers they had. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam could have gone to Medina Munawwara on the normal route. As soon as someone steals your car, you will go on the normal route. Let's find the person. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam had made plans. Instead of the normal route, we will take another route to Medina, which is a difficult route, which is a dangerous route, which very few people know that route. A person who was a guide had to be brought. He had to take them through paths which would cross dangerous terrain that you can just fall and die, which will cross areas where robbers could just pounce on you. There is no protection. No one would have gone and thought of that route. That route was going away from Medina instead of towards Medina. So the enemy would normally go immediately towards Medina. We'll catch them on the road. They had gone away. But the trackers picked up the mistake. Not the mistake, they picked up the track. They said they haven't gone in the direction of Medina. They've gone in the opposite. Trackers. The trackers picked up the road. They picked up what footsteps in the sand, which normally the wind will blow. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh had certain work done also, that people must walk over that path. The animals must come and graze immediately. As they're going for grazing, they must wipe away the footsteps. Lot of preparation. But the trackers still picked it up. Why they picked it up? Because Allah Tabarak Ta'ala wanted to bring them to the step of the door of the cave. To give the whole world a message that it was not even Medina Munawwara that looked after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but it was Allah and Allah alone. They reached the cave. إِذْ هُمَا فِي الْغَارِ, at the time when Abu Bakr radiallahu anh was a companion for Allah's Nabi, there was no security. Companion. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh heard their sounds. He heard their voices. It came to the spot where the tracker even said they are inside this cave. You know what a ghar is? A ghar is different from a kahf. A kahf is something that goes deep. It carries on for miles. Once you enter, you can hide somewhere. A ghar is a small cut in the mountain. Once you enter, there's no way someone can hide. You're caught. He said they are in this cave. And then the leader of the Quraysh, who was with the man, said, "Are you mad?" He said, "Can you not see there's a bird there sitting on his egg? Had anyone been in that cave, you think that bird would be sitting?" And then he said, "Can you not see this web that has been perhaps for the last 10 years here? Had anyone entered this cave, you think this web would have been?" And the tracker is looking at him and saying, "It will only take 1 second to go into the cave. 1 second to enter the cave." Abu Bakr radiallahu anh says that one man wanted to urinate. So he went and he stood at one spot, because now this man, the tracker, is talking nonsense. Let's go back. He wanted to urinate. He said he stood at a spot and he began urinating. He said we could see all of that happening. He says, and I realized that if the man just looks down, he will spot us also. Because he went on a ledge. He just had to look down. The movement of an eye is now not even a second, it's a split second. Just drop the eye, there. Allah Ta'ala brought them to that spot to show when Allah said it will not happen, the whole world could not make it happen. On that spot, that message was given. Who looked after? This is that Islam that we're living in. This is this Quran. This is that promise that trust your Allah and you will see the world will fall at your feet. But this eye must not deceive. Islam showed miracles. This was the beginning of the miracle. That even the eye could not just look down, because Almighty Allah said to the eye, look up. They could not make that one step in the cave, because Almighty Allah said to the leg, you can't go front. But we grew up knowing that world's superpower. In front of Almighty Allah, there is no power. There is not the power to lift an eye, to drop an eye, to look to the right, to look to the left. Why we say this loudly is because as the times are changing, and we are noticing an inqilab, revolution in the Muslim world, and we are finding Muslim countries suddenly standing, Muslim leaders suddenly standing, the whole thing is changing. But there is something that I grew up with and you grew up. That if we heard that Turkey is standing up as a Muslim country, me and you all say they won't last. America will collapse them. Russia will take them down. We got so much of conviction in China. in Russia, in America, that as long as we say they're not supporting us, we say we can't stand. We see a certain president of the country is unique. He has come onto the sunnah. Immediately our people will say, he don't last. They'll take him out. That word, they'll take him out. He won't last. Is because our tongue grew accustomed to the eye. The eye showed power, so we said that's power. The world is changing very fast. Every day in the news we are seeing the collapse of the past superpowers. We are seeing America standing up but can no longer stand. We have seen Turkey saying to America, do what you want to us, we will remain standing. Our own people said they won't stand. Alhamdulillah, they're standing very strong. We are seeing a rise in the entire Muslim world. That rise has to happen in me and you now. Millions are coming out of that lie. We have to come out of the lie. What the eye sees is not the truth. There's another world. And Quran has come to take us into that world. I will take you on to 4 parts. Very fast we will go through it. But what is beyond the corner? So that we come out of a lie and we understand how it is. Allah Ta'ala in the Quran has taken us into world number 1, meaning around the corner. The first one is called the world of wealth. Just yesterday I read an article, perhaps in America it was written, or one of the Western countries. They wrote that amazing, our statistics show us that divorce occurring after affluence is on a much higher rate than divorce which occurred when there was no money in the family. Meaning, things were very hard. Man and woman got together. Perhaps they had no food, they had no electricity. They could not buy for their child the shoe that they wanted, but their marriage was strong. Once money started coming in, the whole thing collapsed. The whole world saw money as a thing of joy. That is what the eye saw. It was only Islam that was going to tell the world it's not always like that. As long as there was no wealth in the house, there was unity. There was love. There was entering the house and 2 people eating from one plate. Suddenly wealth came in the house and 2 people are eating in 2 different rooms. He cannot see her, she cannot see him. He enters the house late at night. His food is already in a microwave, she's gone to sleep. He will eat it and sleep in another room. As the house got bigger, the hearts also separated further. But the eye could never see. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw wealth coming. It was the first wealth that came from the land of Bahrain. Sahaba radiallahu anh got the news, wealth has come. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam made salam for the Fajr Salah. He turned around. The masjid was full. Normally masjid would get full for Jummah. It was full for Fajr. They would read their Fajr in their masajid close to their houses. Everyone was there. He smiled. Now why you will smile? He smiled because normally you are not here for Fajr. So he said, I'm sure some news reached you. Sahaba radiallahu anh also looked down shy. But Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a unique personality. He never shouted them. Because we understand nature. He could have shouted them and said that the reward to perform salah behind your Nabi could never bring you all for Fajr here with me. But to here today I might get some money brought you all. But a Nabi is not like that also. A Nabi understands man got certain desires, got certain feelings. That which is allowed should be allowed. So he smiled. He said, I'm sure some news reached you all. Sahaba radiallahu anh looked down. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, glad tidings, meaning I'm not going to forget anyone. Even if you'll never land up for the Fajr Salah, I would have sent the money to you. This money is for all. Then he said, oh, glad tidings that I got so much here which is going to make you all happy. And then he said, what a sentence which started, what's beyond the road? He said, but oh my Sahaba, remember, it is not poverty that I fear for you. What a sentence when it was said. What was the power of the kalam speech of the Rasul of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What a sentence. It was said at a time where their houses was not getting food sometimes for 7-8 days in a row. Where sometimes there wasn't forget food, there wasn't oil to burn a lamp. It was said at a time where it was a barren desert. It was said at a time when Persia and Rome were still strong. At that time he said, it is not poverty I fear upon you. He said, rather it is, I fear, when the wealth of the world will start flowing towards you. What a sentence also. At sometimes he said when wealth will come to you, sometimes he even used the word flowing. Wealth doesn't flow if it is gold. Wealth doesn't flow if it is silver. But a time came where wealth flowed for the Arabs, which became oil. He said, I fear the time where wealth will flow for you. Flow. I fear. He says, and that very wealth will then destroy you like it destroyed people before you. History showed what a unique sequence of events. Money came into the Muslim world, a lot of wealth came into the Muslim world, and then flowing wealth also came into the Muslim world. When flowing wealth came into the Muslim world, where it would have taken them to the next step, it began the collapse of the entire Muslim hukumat and power. The day wealth started flowing in the hands of the Arabs, oil, saw the collapse of the Khilafat, saw the establishment of kufr states, saw Muslim puppets standing up. As long as oil never touched the Muslim world, there was a Khilafat. There was deen, there was strength, there was no immodesty in the world allowed. There was no filth and dirt allowed. There was no television showing filthy movies allowed. They did have their arguments, they did have their fights, but destruction came onto the Arabs the day the wealth started flowing for the Arabs. He said, it is poverty it's not poverty that I fear for you. He says, rather I fear the time when the earth will give out its adornments, and it will destroy you like how it destroyed the people before. A Sahabi radiallahu anh stood up, and he said, O Allah's Nabi, ayatil khayru bishar, that can good ever bring evil? Because if someone says to you, money will destroy you, you will say, money is the source of all good. Quran described money, wealth as good. وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ. Man loves goodness. Goodness means wealth. On that verse that Allah called wealth good, He says, O Allah's Nabi, can good ever bring bad? This is what Quran and Sunnah is. It took us beyond. No scientist, no engineer, no professor, no master think tank of the world can show you where Quran showed you and Sunnah showed you. No article has until today been written that how is it that poverty has brought happiness to the world and wealth has brought destruction to the world. It can't make sense because the eye can't see it. The mind can't understand it. But Quran took man beyond a limit. The Sahabi radiallahu anh said, can good ever bring evil? And why are we saying it in South Africa? Because we grew up in affluence. My house, your house. I want water, open the tap, water has come. That is wealth. Go to those countries where up till today the woman will walk 3 kilometers to find that water. I only walk 3 steps to find the water. And still while sitting on the dastarkhan, I'll say to my son, get water. And he say, no, you get the water. Water is so far. 3 steps we cannot move. And we'll find people walking 3 kilometers. We are wealthy. I need to go to the masjid. Go to those countries where they will walk and walk and walk to get to the masjid. For me, it is just put my car on and I'm there, but still I'll say, hey, I'm tired today, let me read at home. The journey to the masjid became just a car click in, out, and I'm at the masjid. But suddenly a near journey became very far. But when affluence hit me and you, we all got it, and we enjoy Allah's favors. But how many masjids I have gone to, and the bayan that they said speak about drugs. So at the beginning of the one bayan I mentioned that this bayan on drugs, I have not remember ever giving it to a town where I saw poverty in the town. He says, I went to one place where there was only poverty. There was no need to talk about drugs. There was no drugs. There was no need to talk about gambling and killing and evil and dirt. They were all so simple people. We just spoke about loving Allah. But when we came into the rich world, Every house I entered, they said, Maulana, speak to my son, he's off. He said, not poverty that I fear on you. I fear when wealth starts flowing, it will destroy you like it destroyed people in the past. Wealth has come into our houses and my son is being knocked off the path. My daughter is being taken out. My child is 16, 17, 18. He says, Maulana, please speak to him. He doesn't listen to me anymore. He goes out with his friends. He comes back late at night. Poverty is supposed to take him out. He says, Mommy, I'm going to look for a job. He got everything his father has given him. But the only thing is he hates his father to the core. Where wealth is supposed to bring love, I'll give you money, my son. Give me your life, your love. The more money that went to the boy, the more the hatred was created. So the Sahabi radiallahu anh was shocked that can good ever bring evil? This is Quran and Sunnah. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam kept quiet. What a question. That if money gives goodness, how can it bring evil? Sahaba radiallahu anh said, some of us became upset. How could he ask a question like that? Objection. He says, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not reply. We thought he was upset with him. But I told you, and you asking me what a question. But it was not that wahi had started. The question brought an answer from the heavens. This is knowledge which is beyond. It is Quran and Sunnah that has taken us to a level that I will show you something which no mind can ever reach. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam began perspiring. Sahaba radiallahu anh said, we understood wahi has come. The perspiration was wiped. He said, where is the man who asked the question? The Sahabi says, it seems as if he was praising him. What a question you asked. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave an answer from the heavens. He says, when the season comes of spring, it brings a lot of goodness with it. Everything which was dead comes alive. And where there was no food, now there's abundance of food. And where the cow had to go look for something to live on, suddenly the cow got enough. Everything is green. Now the cow got a choice. You can eat from here, you can eat from there, you can eat from there. When the cow had to go look for his food, he had to walk. He had to search. He found something with great difficulty, he ate it. But he managed to live till spring. Poverty did not kill the cow. He says, but suddenly spring has come and everything is green. He says, so when the cows start eating, he says, amongst the cows there are those that eat and eat. But the time comes when they feel the pressure on the sides, so they stop eating. And then they go out and they sit in the sun. He says, as the rays of the sun starts working on their body, they start digesting whatever they have taken in. They vomit it up, they take it in, they break it, it goes in one stomach into another stomach. He says the cow remains there resting and letting it do what it has to do. Then it does its stool, it does its urine. When everything is out, then the cow stands up and he goes back to the field. He said, but then you get those cows that when it starts eating, it forgets that there's a limit. So all it thinks about is, I just need more green, more green. I want that also, I want that also, I want that. You sit on a dastarkhan, they say, how many meals, how many cores? You say 5 cores. Even if your stomach telling you stop, just because the dessert came in, say, okay, give me a little dessert. Say, I'm not supposed to do it. Doctor told me no, but just give me that donut. Why? Because I became a cow. That I also need that, I also need that, I also need that. Then there is that cow which will go and push the other cow back. You don't come here, only for me. Now there is hatred between cows. He said, amongst the cows there is that cow which eats and eats, but it doesn't want to stop. You will not see it in the cow world, but you will see it in mine and your world. Allah brought wealth. When there was no wealth, we had to go and look for our wealth. We went shop to shop trying to sell something. But we all survived. Our grandfathers survived, great-grandfathers survived. That's how we hear. No one died. Suddenly Almighty Allah brought the world at my button. I just touched one and an order was made in Belgium. I touched another button, China has made an order with me. One tank is coming from this country, one tank is coming from that country. Spring has come. But when spring came, suddenly I became an evil cow. My only maqsad in life was just to eat. Just to eat. Just to eat. My family said, let's go for a holiday. You say, my busy period. I have to eat. I have to eat. I have to eat. My son wanted to spend time. I'm very busy. I have to eat. I have to eat. He said, amongst the cow, you can get that cow who only eats. And he only eats. And he only eats. Until when the pressure is found on his side, he's still not stopping eating. Until finally a time comes, he bursts. And that cow died because of what? Not because of poverty, but because of so much of food, but he never wanted to stop eating. He says, that man who earns from halal and spends in halal, he will survive this. But as for the one who just takes and takes and takes, it can happen on big levels, where you will hear some rich people in the world, they own perhaps more than the rest of 90% of the world. There's so many billion in their account, that there's no way they can even think about using up that money. But still they want to get more. To get more, they want to knock that company off. They will knock that company off. Someone will be killed. Someone will be tortured. Someone will be murdered. We need more. We need more. I need that land now. I need that land. They are in big groups, big cows. Then you get a smaller cow. I got my small business, but that business across is my competition. There was a time in the Muslim world where a man would enter a shop. The shopkeeper would say to him when he would ask, do you have this item? And then he would look and he would say, that man opposite got it. So as he was going out, the son said to the father, Daddy, we also got stock. So the father said, I know that. But during the day, when customers were coming in our shop, I noticed that so many customers did not go to that shop opposite. He says, now that the day is finishing, I felt that if I can at least send one customer to that person extra, so that where I made so much, he can also make so much. He said, what harm it gave to me to say that he got the item? Go there. Abu al-Hasan Ali Nadwi rahimullah said, this was Islam once upon a time. Then a time came where spring came to all of us. But suddenly when spring came, the cow said, don't go there, it's mine. You also come in. So a man is walking on the road, you got suddenly one agent, bring him here, don't let him go there. Why? Because I became a cow who will eat. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this was called ilm. Let me take you into the world of wealth. The eye shows it as a very green world. Allah Tabaraka Ta'ala describes, وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. First Allah Tabaraka Ta'ala describes wealth. وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلَ الرَّجُلَيْنِ. Give the example to the people of two people, two friends. جَعَلْنَا لِأَحَدِهِمَا جَنَّتَيْنِ مِنْ أَعْنَابٍ. For one of them we gave him two gardens. Gardens of grapes, not one but two. حَفَفْنَاهُمَا بِنَخْلٍ. It was surrounded by an orchard of date palms. وَجَعَلْنَا بَيْنَهُمَا زَرْعًا. In between there was a farm. He had his farm which was giving out from the bottom. He had the date orchards which were giving out from the trees. And then he had the grapes which were growing all on the walls. كِلْتَ الْجَنَّتَيْنِ آتَتْ أُكُلَهَا. Had there been only one of each, it was more than sufficient. You got 3 branches. Allah Ta'ala said, we gave him double. Now he's sitting with 6 different sources of income. If one doesn't produce, the other one will give. If this one doesn't give, that one will give. كِلْتَ الْجَنَّتَيْنِ آتَتْ أُكُلَهَا. Allah Ta'ala said everything was giving. Money was coming from every avenue. وَلَمْ تَظْلِمْ مِنْهُ شَيْئًا. The gardens were not holding anything back. The eye will normally say to you, when man was collecting so much, all he's supposed to do is say, now I'm going to sit in the masjid and every day read 3 paras of Quran. Now I will go and give out to the poor. My Allah, you are giving so much that not one garden is holding back. How can I hold back? The demand of what the eye was, that the man who's getting so much, he doesn't have to go work now. He can now devote himself to his Allah. But Quran said it never happened like that. When there was no wealth, we found people in the morning reading Quran, people in the afternoon reading Quran. Wealth came in the world, we saw the Quran closed. The man said, I got no time. They said, you got the whole world at your finger, but you can't open up this book. You can read the news of the world, but you can't open up one page to read. Why? The eye will say, but you got so much of time. Quran was to say that when it came and Allah told the gardens, don't hold back, that is when man holds back. It's a unique world out there. Beyond that journey, beyond that bend, we have seen so many good people without wealth who became very bad people with wealth. Families collapsed, broken. They were living a happily married couple. Money came in. Suddenly she's having an affair, he's having an affair. The child are on drugs. The whole family broke. When that wealth entered, you could have said to the wealth that, oh family, it is not poverty I fear. I fear when wealth will start flowing through this house, it will destroy you like it destroyed the people of the past. Only that man whose mind was tuned, that when you see wealth coming, immediately you go on guard. No one said don't take wealth, but don't grab wealth. You will have to learn to take it like a man holds on to a snake. He understands what the snake, I can show everyone, I can control the snake, but he has to know how to hold it. If you just grab the snake, you will be the first button. Wealth is last. It is a beautiful snake, but it is a snake in the ending. If it spits, the person who's there will be the first one to be knocked. When wealth will come, look at it, take it, but be cautious. It must not break my son and me. It must not break my wife and me. I brought it in my house to make us happy. It came in and everything but happiness came. وَلَمْ تَظْلِمْ مِنْهُ شَيْئًا. Allah Ta'ala says, وَفَجَّرْنَا خِلَالَهُمَا نَهَرًا. Forget the gardens, we even gave them a river. He never have to go look for water. Water came looking for him. وَكَانَ لَهُ ثَمَرٌ. So many other avenues of wealth he got. You would have thought him to be the man making the greatest shukr of Almighty Allah. Allah Ta'ala says, when his old friend came to visit him, the old friend did not have money, but he was blessed with something which was called Iman. The man who had money could not even say Allah on his lips. So his friend said to him, why can't you just say that this came from Allah? Even that one sentence wealth did not allow him to say. He said, وَلَوْلَا إِذْ دَخَلْتَ جَنَّتَكَ قُلْتَ مَا شَاءَ اللَّهِ. He said, I'm only asking you one thing. The next time you enter into your gardens, can't you just say this is from Allah? Can't you just say this is from Allah? But look at wealth when it came into a man. Even the word MashaAllah could not go on his tongue. He could say the whole world's vocabulary, one word of Allah he could not say. Allah Ta'ala said the result of what wealth brought to him. Allah Ta'ala then says, وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Let us take you more into the world. This is wealth, what it brings. Beyond that turn, there's a whole new story. Understand the story before you run for it. Because it must not happen, your family collapses and then when you see the collapse, but then it's too late. وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. There are many people who die for the adornments of this world. Allah Ta'ala says, say to them, it is just like the water that comes from the sky. أَنزَلْنَاهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ فَاخْتَلَطَ بِهِ نَبَاتُ الْأَرْضِ. Water came down. As soon as the water came down, suddenly dead land came alive. Similarly, water came down on all of us. Because of water it was that I grew up, you grew up. I began walking, you began walking. I could talk, you could talk. Qualities, abilities, mastery in anything. I'm a carpenter, I'm an engineer, I'm an accountant. Everything came from Allah. It was water that fell, and a child who could not move suddenly was making the world move. But what happened? It was water that came. The only problem is the child who could not move. The day he began making the world move, he forgot that it is my Allah that makes me move. He forgot that. That is why now when he drives that I am the boss. He drives that no one tells me what to do. No one, meaning not even Allah. He says, no one can stop me. No one must stop me. No one must be a barrier that no one. What he forgot, Allah Ta'ala says, he forgot, هَلْ أَتَى عَلَى الْإِنسَانِ حِينٌ مِّنَ الدَّهْرِ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ شَيْئًا مَذْكُورًا. That, oh man, when you start saying, no one must stop me, he says, man has forgotten that there was a time when he was no one. He forgot. Because he could not see beyond. So suddenly as he stood like a tree. But the tree forgot that once upon a time it was also only a bud. As it was growing, it was so worried I mustn't get knocked. But when it stood on its own, it forgot that it is an Allah that made me stand. So Allah Tabarak Ta'ala says, now the whole farm has come out. فَاخْتَلَطَ بِهِ نَبَاتُ الْأَرْضِ. Now there is vegetation, now there is flowers, now there are trees. As the tree is standing, drive past when it is spring, the orchards, and you will see as the plantations are moving, as the wind is blowing, each one sways. As it sways, it is saying to the one next to it, look at me how smart I am. Look how I move, I'm bigger than you. The rose will say to the one who's not a rose, look at my red color, you haven't got that red. And as each one moves, it thinks that the people who are driving on the road are also noticing them. Whereas the people who are driving are so busy, they don't have time to notice the new roses. Me and you, as we grew up, we also thought the whole world is watching me. But no one in the world got time to watch. And how we know this? We got our Facebook account. And on the Facebook account, even if I ate biryani that day, I'll put it, ate biryani, here's the picture, you don't believe me. And every now and then I want to check up how many followers I got. Why? Because that followers makes me understand it means I'm someone. As the plant moves, it's looking on the road. You noticing me? Allah Ta'ala says, فَأَصْبَحَ هَشِيمًا. But then a time comes where the lovely colors start turning yellow. Because autumn is coming. When it turns yellow, it was an indication in life, no matter what you got, you're going to get bored one day. No matter what you got of this world, you are going to get yellow. The car that was so smart no longer has its thrill because you can't drive anymore. I visited that place where the man had a wonderful car. But he said to me that because of a certain operation, I could not move for so many weeks. He said during that time, that car just stayed in the garage. There was no thrill in the car. A time comes where the man is old. A beautiful car for him means nothing because he can't get in the car. We sat at that dastarkhan where the one man who was hosting the whole Jamaat. But he had nothing in his plate. Nothing. The plates were smart, the food was smart, but he never had the ability to put food in his body. So he just looks and says, you all eat. The body could not take it. We went to the place where the man heard that the taxman is coming to visit you. Just that word of the taxman took away his entire mind. We ate at his house also. I thought he got cancer, he's going to die after a few days. Later on when I was out of hearing, I asked somebody, like, it's a very major sickness. He said, no, the taxman. Just the word of tax took away his whole life. We all ate lovely chicken. He could not drink even one glass of water. There's another world out there. It became yellow. When the world becomes yellow, you can have the best car, you can have the best woman, you can have the best house. Allah Ta'ala took away something called happiness and everything is just yellow. فَأَصْبَحَ هَشِيمًا. It becomes yellow. تَذْرُوهُ الرِّيَاحِ. And finally when it collapses. Now the wind as it blows, that farmer already cut it. When the farmer had cut that plantation, little bit of it remains till the dirt. When our farmer, which is the angel of death, will come, me and you are also going to get cut. Everyone is falling one day. And then that farmer, what was useful in that plant, he sent it to the factory. What was in me is going to be sent to our factory the year after. When we reach there, we will see what was in us. But what was left, go to the graveyard. And the graveyard will announce, oh, rose of today, how was the rose of yesterday? That is what the graveyard is saying. Oh, rose of today, that's me and you. That is my wife who's going for the wedding. And she's so worried that I can't wear a cloak which I wore last year. What if someone remembers you wore this last year? I'll never wear it again. Get me another cloak. The shoe, I wore the shoe last year. Only last year, once only. That one auntie will see, say, you wore the same shoe last year. I'll never. Why? I'm the unique rose. But in the graveyard, there's another rose who's saying, how was the rose yesterday? And as you were moving, I also moved. But the only thing is, my eye could not tell me that autumn is around the corner. He says, I'm telling you that don't trust your eye. Autumn is around the corner. Because when autumn comes, you are also going to be cut. Your color is going to change. Your standing is going to be falling. Allah Ta'ala took us into the world of wealth. Every wealth doesn't bring a smile. He took us into the world of adornment. That every adornment doesn't mean that there is no autumn. When the turn of the season comes, every flower is going to fall. Then Quran has taken us into the world of sickness. The whole world will see sickness as a thing that my whole life has collapsed. I was smiling and she was smiling. Then we visited the doctor. It was only a pain on the side. The doctor said, I fear it can either be something small or it could be something major. When I went home that night, I already knew it's major. The next day I was told there's cancer in the back, there's cancer in the spine, it has reached level so and so. The whole world trusting the eye when they heard this will collapse. Sickness is calamity. Every eye sees sickness as a calamity. You got a major fever, your life is finished. How can sickness ever be a mercy? It was Quran and Sunnah that was going to tell you around the corner, sickness is a mercy. Sickness is a blessing. It is a blessing that nobody wants, but it is a blessing in the ending. It is this understanding of what's around the corner that will allow you to visit a cancer center and you will see two people sitting next to each other. One is a Muslim who will say when you meet him that make dua. You'll ask, how are you feeling? They say, Alhamdulillah. The body is in so much of pain, but the individual will still say, there will be a smile on the face. One woman wrote this. She said, I see two cancer patients. She came to ask one friend of mine in a shop, that what is the difference between you people and us? That with the patients I work with who know they're going to die, they are always cheerful. She says, but all others, they're in a gloom that they're never going to come out of. So the person said, we believe in something beyond. So he told me this. He said, I never know what else to tell her. It is only the Quran and Sunnah who will take you into the life of Ayyub alayhi salam, who will show you that sickness always is not a disaster. It will take you into the verse where Allah Ta'ala says, and when calamity falls on man, difficulty, then suddenly man says, Allah, you disgraced me. وَأَمَّا إِذَا مَبْتَلَاهُ فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ. Suddenly there is sickness in the body. Suddenly there is tightness in the wealth. فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَهَانًا. Then the man says, Allah, you disgracing me. Allah Ta'ala says, got nothing to do with disgrace. It was only Quran that was going to announce, الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ. That those people, when calamity fell on their heads, the whole world saw calamity, said, oh, only Quran would announce when calamity fell on their head. And they said, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. The eye of the world saw calamity. It was only Quran that was going to announce, Ulaika alayhim salawatum min rabbihim. Pouring upon them is the mercy of Almighty Allah. Only Quran could announce that when a calamity hit and the whole world saw calamity, Allah's mercy was pouring in torrents. Alayhim, falling on them, salawatum, lot of blessings. Salawatum min rabbihim wa rahma. Wa ulaika humul muhtadun. Their roads of guidance were opening up. Only Quran could see it. One man wrote, he said, for the last 22 years I got eczema, whatever you call it. He says the condition of it was that my hands, when it swells, it really swells. When I was in school, I was mocked by everyone. He says, but the worst was when my teacher would never take my side just because of my religion. He says, I remember days would come where I would cry and cry and cry. Then as I went higher, I used to always look at my hand and think, will ever anyone marry me with this hand? While studying, there was a girl from Lebanon. Because of her deen, I thought that maybe she will not look at the outside of my body and think of my insides. So I sent a proposal. She said in a very nice manner, but she said in the ending, no. She tried to avoid the issue of the hand and she made some other excuse, like how normally when a girl doesn't want to marry you, then you're waiting for the answer. Then when they phone finally, what they say? They say that the istikhara never work out. The istikhara never work out means you're not the one. But they can't tell you that you're not handsome or istikhara. What you going to complain of istikhara? So she said in a very nice manner she said it, but I already knew it was my hand. It was my hand. He says then it just went worse. He said I could not go with my friends because I knew if someone had to look at my hand, I could just see it on his face. He says in the masjid also I used to perform the wuzu and it used to burn in the salah. I used to cry in salah. And I knew the man next to me after salah, in the Shafi'i madhab, normally after salah they'll make salam. He said with me they would not make salam because nobody wanted to touch my hand. He said even in the masjid I cried. He said I knew most likely no one in the world will ever marry me. So finally I said, oh Allah, if I can't get a girl in this world, in the place of her, will there be one girl for me in the paradise? He said I should just say this to myself. He said, sometimes I would cry and said, oh Allah, can't you just send for me an Ayyub? Meaning Ayyub alayhi salam. So at least I got someone who I can go with, walk with, spend time with. That when I'm suffering, he's suffering with me. But for me to be alone in suffering, beyond the road, only Quran and Sunnah will come and teach, Islam will come and teach. He said, I cried and I cried. He said, then I went into that depression where I finally felt that Allah left me. He says, it was around that time in summer, which created such a summer for me, which I'll never forget. He said, during that time for 6 weeks, I had dreams. 6 weeks dreams. He says, to describe the dreams to you, it's very hard, but I will mention to you 2 of my dreams, beyond the corner. He says, the one dream I was standing on a red earth, red land. 2 people with huge beards came to me and said, come. You want to see what is the world called Jahannam, fire. As I walked, we came to like something like a face, a beast, an animal, whatever it was. Huge. And it opened its mouth. As it opened its mouth, it became like a cave. And they said to me, come in. So as I walked in the cave, I saw chambers. The first chamber, I saw a man on his belly. Many men. They were lying on the belly and they were lying on spikes. And that spikes were coming out from the back. And I could just hear screaming. I entered the next chamber and I saw people who were there and something from on top was just falling. And they were crushed into pieces. Then I saw them coming up again and again a thing fell and they crushed. I entered into the third chamber and I saw the limbs of people who were being removed. Limbs. What happened to now in Turkey, where they cut that person's body and they said we could hear him screaming on the... A lot of people say there's no justice in this world. Because whatever happens now will happen, but the justice will never be there. The people who really ask for the murder, they'll always get away. So a lot of people say there's no justice. Our answer is there's a lot of justice. But justice starts when you turn the corner. When you turn the corner. In the world, if someone committed major murders, rape, spoiled families' lives, then he's jailed. While he's in jail, he commits suicide. He's found hung the next day. You'll visit so many families, they say, so unfair. He did this, and he just killed himself. They should have punished him. So our answer is beyond the corner, it started only now. That the eye of the world has seen that with death it's finished. But the Quran has told you that with death it's only starting. What they could never punish him in this world 1,000,000 times, with death in one day he will get that punishment. He said, I saw the limbs being removed. Then the angels, or whoever it was, those 2 people looked at me and said, that is your life as difficult as this life? As they said this, and I said, by Allah, no. Then suddenly we are out of the cave. He said, I woke up. This is a very great difficulty, but this difficulty has protected you from a major calamity. How many people got no problem with their hand, but this hand is opening up for them the cave of Jahannam. The very hand. He says, but the best of those dreams when I saw Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, I was sitting in a dark room. The meaning of the dream, he said, in front of me there was suddenly a gold door. In front of me. The door opened. And it said, why don't you enter? What the dream was saying to him is, in difficulty, forget you having to go search for paradise. Paradise will come looking for you. In a dark room, while crying, I saw the door of paradise. I never have to go to paradise. It came to him. I entered the door and suddenly I was in gardens. He said, I could hear people laughing and talking on top. So I began walking towards. Walking. On every step the garden became more beautiful. He narrates the dream where finally he reached a place where there was a table laid out. And he explains the different foods that were on the table. But he says the most exciting thing around the table were 100 people. 100 men were sitting. He said, I looked at one and he had a staff and I understood this is none but Nabi Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. I looked at another and I saw his hair was wavy, long. And it was like droplets were dropping from his hair like pearls. As described in the hadith, I said, this is my Nabi Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, at the head of the table, then suddenly the leader turned towards me. He said, I saw an eye that shined like a diamond. He said, from his face it was only light. And as he smiled, I felt musk covering my whole body. So he asked me, he called me out by my name. So he knew my name. And he said, I want you to sit next to me. I want you to sit next to me. The eye of the world saw calamity and disaster. Beyond the road was an invitation from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why don't you sit next to me? He said, as soon as he said that, a gold chair appeared for me and I sat. I sat facing Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said to him, my name is Muhammad, the son of Abdullah. But the unique part of the dream was the ending. Where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, allow me to hold your hand. Allow me to hold your hand. Said, as our hands touched, I felt the warmth going through my whole body. The message of the dream to the world was, in what you saw difficulty was your connection to the Rasul of Allah. But no eye could ever see it. The eye sees death as calamity. It is Quran that has tell you it's the beginning only. It's only starting. Life is only beginning. The deception of the eye has made people cry when someone died. We visited those houses. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the dream, they ended the dream saying to him that don't ever cry because of calamity and difficulty. He says rather cry for the forgiveness of Allah. He says because remember Allah loves that servant who runs towards him in difficulty. And he ended and he said, and remember that tomorrow is another day. He says, when you will reach tomorrow, you will be surprised to see the love that Allah gives to those that had to sacrifice for Allah. But the eye won't see it. Time is up, inshallah. We will end on the last. The last is death. Which how many houses we have visited. And they said, give some words of solace. Sometimes it's a young girl who passed away. We understand people are supposed to be crying. Sometimes it's a very old person. He's supposed to pass away. But they're still crying and say, we're going to miss him so much. So in the last few places that I went, then I ended with this one, which I will just mention to you now. What is death? Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that this world is a prison for everyone. It's just that how your cage is. But we are prisoners, you are prisoners. Some people got a bird, that bird is also in a cage. Some people got a cheap land plastic cage. And that bird only got one thing to make ting, ting, ting. Some people got a big cage for the bird. The cage is of gold. There's a lot of ting, ting, tings in it. Every day is giving that bird new food. But the bird in the end of the day is in a cage. In this world, some of our cages are small and some are big. Those people whose cages are big really think that they're free. They're also in a cage. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, the day death comes to you, you're going free. No man supposed to ever cry and say, I don't want to go free. But because the eye is telling us death is scary, I don't want to believe death is enjoyable. I don't want to believe it. But what is death? Death is the khulasa. That your friend, your family, your sister, she just gave birth last year. And now her name came for Hajj. So someone says, you're going to leave the child. She says, I have to leave my child. Why? Because I got a call from Allah. I'm going for Hajj. In the call from Allah, that woman who loves her child so much is ready to put that child in the hands of her sister and says, look after my baby, but I'm going for Hajj. Why? Because they understand a call from Allah is a unique call. Unique. When that mother reaches there, she does cry for her child, but she's so involved with the house of Allah that 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks have gone. 6 weeks have gone. And the child is saying, how could mommy leave me? Mommy not supposed to leave you, but mommy was called by someone who you can never imagine. But now the father phones. After 6 weeks, he's supposed to come home. He says, you know what, we met one Saudi. He became friends with us. He said, why you want to go back to South Africa? He said, I read in the newspaper, South Africa is a jungle. More people are being killed on the streets of Joburg than in the Kruger Park. There are more lions out there. He said, you lock up your doors, you lock up your gates. He said, here we're free. He said, there you're going for Fajr, someone is shooting you. Here you can go where you want. You want to go back to South Africa? So the man says, no. He says, but my family. My family. So the Saudi says, you just stay here and I'll try to arrange for permits that they can also come over. Are you happy? He says, what am I going to do in Saudi? He said, I'll get you a job. And you will live right by the Kaaba. But don't go back. So that father phones home and he says, you know what, my child, I'm missing you a lot. But instead of me coming to South Africa and losing my chance, make a few years of sabr and I'm bringing you over. When man dies, he has sent a message to the world that I have answered the call of my Allah, and in that call I had to be ready to leave all of you. But I went for Hajj. And when I reached there, I got such a selected place by my Allah that I'm not ready to come back to Africa. There's no sickness left now. There's no pain left. There's no old age left. There's no poverty left. There's no fear of poverty left. I can't come back. But I did say to my Allah, what about my son? So Almighty Allah said, instead of you going back to Africa and spoiling it all, we will arrange that very soon he's also coming over. This is that meaning of Inna Lillah. Inna Lillah, we gone to Allah. Meaning my call for Hajj has been made. He is gone to Allah. Wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And we also going soon. They're just making arrangements there. It might take 2 months, it might take 2 years. But I'm also packing my bags. I'm not going to say, Daddy, come back. I'm going to say, Daddy, wait for me, I'm coming. But the eye of the face would never show you that. It is Quran and Sunnah. Beyond that mountain, there's another world. It is that world that Quran has come to teach us. Don't ever be deceived by your eye, because it does not tell a true story. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala bless my mind and your mind, my heart and your heart, to see, to understand, to have that conviction, part of that conviction of an Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, that even if the whole world told him it won't happen, he could see beyond the mountains, and he said, my Allah will make it happen. To be able to say that. We pull out of haram, we pull out of dirt, we pull out of filth. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala bless me with a unique eye that we can see it all. Bless you with a unique eye that you can see it all. Save me from being deceived, save you from being deceived. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala save us from the harms of wealth. Bless us with the goodness of wealth. Save us from the harms of the adornments of the world. Bless us with the goodness. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala in the Quran, they mentioned, amongst people there are those who, when they lift up their hands, or when they ask, they only ask for this world. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala says, for them they will get nothing in the hereafter. And then He says, and amongst man there are those who say, Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana. That, oh Allah, what is good give us in this world. And what is good give us in the next world. And protect us from the fire of Jahannam. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala says, these are the people who understood. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala make us amongst those people. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah.